You did everything right. And here you are, awake again at 3 in the morning. This isn't restlessness, and it isn't your fault. Something you ate hours ago is still quietly at work, long after you forgot it. And here is the quiet twist. The very thing that helped you fall asleep so easily is the same thing that woke you. Welcome to Sleepy Science. Tonight, nothing here asks you to fix that. We only follow, slowly, how the second half of your night gets quietly taken, and how gently it can be given back. Let your shoulders give up the day. Somewhere below your ribs, your body is already deciding what tonight's choices will quietly do to your rest. So let's begin where so many evenings begin, with the drink that promises to help you sleep. There's a small ritual millions of people share at the end of a hard day. A glass of wine, poured slowly, sipped in the quiet. Within half an hour, the shoulders drop and the eyelids grow heavy. Sleep seems to arrive on its own, faster than usual. And for a few hours, it works. But then, somewhere around 3 in the morning, the eyes open in the dark for no clear reason, and sleep will not come back. Underneath everything we'll explore tonight sits one gentle question. Why would the very drink that helped you fall asleep so easily be the same thing that quietly wakes you a few hours later? Alcohol works on the brain the way a dimmer switch works on a lamp. It boosts a calming messenger called GABA, the same chemical your brain uses to slow itself down at night. At the same time, it creates glutamate, the messenger that keeps you alert. The result is that heavy, sinking feeling that makes the bed so inviting. This is why a nightcap can feel like it's helping. Falling asleep after a drink often takes only a few minutes, faster than a normal night. The trouble is that this is not the brain choosing sleep. It is the brain being turned down, and those two things are not the same. Here is where the picture grows interesting. Sedation and sleep look alike from the outside, yet inside the brain, they are very different states. Natural sleep moves through careful stages, each one doing its own quiet work. Alcohol skips past that careful process and drops you straight into a heavy, shallow rest. Think of it like the difference between slowly walking downstairs and simply being lowered by a rope. You end up at the bottom either way. But one journey is smooth and complete, and the other misses every step along the way. That missed structure is the first hint of why the night falls apart later on. In the first half of the night, alcohol holds back a stage of sleep called REM. REM is the phase where most vivid dreaming happens, and it usually arrives in gentle waves through the night. After a drink or two, those early waves are flattened. Researchers have measured this again and again in sleep labs, watching REM shrink in the hours right after drinking. Your body notices the shortfall and keeps a kind of quiet tally. It does not simply let that missing REM go. It remembers what it was owed. And later in the night, it will come looking to collect what those early hours took away. Why should missing a little REM matter during REM sleep? The mind sorts through the day's emotions. softening sharp memories and filing them away. It is a bit like a librarian moving quietly through the shelves after closing, putting everything back in its place. When alcohol pushes REM out of the early night, that gentle sorting is delayed. The librarian is locked out for the first few hours. Nothing feels wrong while you sleep, because you are deep under. But the work that was supposed to happen simply waits. And anything postponed in the body rarely disappears. It only moves to a less convenient hour, further along in the dark. Your body clears alcohol at a steady, unhurried pace. For most people, the liver processes about one standard drink each hour, roughly the speed of a slow stroll around the block. It cannot be rushed by coffee, cold air, or willpower. So if you finish 2 glasses of wine near bedtime, your body is still quietly working on them well past midnight. As it works, the level of alcohol in your blood keeps sliding downward, hour by hour. That falling line is not just a number on a chart. It turns out to be the hidden timer behind the whole story, ticking down toward the moment your eyes will open. As the alcohol leaves your blood, the calm it created leaves with it. During the first few hours, that extra GABA held you in a heavy stillness. But once your body finishes the job, the stillness lifts, and it does not simply return you to normal. The brain, having been pressed down for hours, springs back the other way. Sleep grows lighter and thinner, the way a heavy blanket suddenly feels weightless when it slips off. This is the first of 3 quiet mechanisms that gather in the small hours. On its own, it might only stir you. Joined by the others, it is enough to wake you fully. The rebound is more than the calm wearing off. While alcohol was quieting the brain was quietly pushing back, trying to keep its balance. It dialed down GABA's calming signal and readied more of the alert chemical, glutamate, to hold the middle ground. When the alcohol clears, that preparation is suddenly unopposed. Now the alert side is running a little too high, like a car idling fast after the brake is released. The mind becomes busy and easily disturbed. A small noise, a shift in the room, a passing thought, any of these can now surface you. The deep shelter of early sleep has quietly turned into shallow water. Remember the REM your body kept a tally of earlier. Now it collects. In the second half of the night, REM comes rushing back stronger than usual. A wave making up for the ones that were flattened before. Dreams turn vivid, sometimes strange or vaguely unsettling. And this stage is naturally light and easy to wake from. So the very rebound that repays the debt also thins your sleep exactly when you least expect it. This is one reason people who drink often report restless, dream-heavy early mornings. Their body is only balancing its books, but it chooses the quietest hours to do the accounting, right when you hoped to be furthest under. By now, a quiet reversal has come into view. The same glass that lowered you so gently into sleep is the thing lifting you back out of it. Early in the night it acted as a sedative, and later, as it faded, it became something closer to a stimulant. So the question we began with starts to turn. Perhaps the problem was never that the drink failed to help you fall asleep. Perhaps the trouble is that it borrowed the ease of the first few hours directly from the peace of the last few. One drink can be both the thing that puts you down and the thing that wakes you. There is a second mechanism, and it begins in the liver. Your liver has two demanding night jobs: clearing alcohol and releasing steady sips of sugar into your blood to keep you fueled while you sleep. It cannot fully do both at once. When alcohol is present, the liver treats it as the pressing guest and turns its attention there first. The slow, steady release of sugar gets set aside. For the first few hours, this goes unnoticed. But as the night wears on, your blood sugar can quietly drift lower than it should, setting up a small dip that your body will not ignore for very long. Picture your blood sugar as a fire that needs a small log every so often to stay even through the night. With the liver busy elsewhere, a few of those logs are missed. In the early morning hours, the fire can burn low. This gentle dip is sometimes called reactive low blood sugar, and it tends to land in that same 3 a.m. window. Your brain runs almost entirely on sugar, so it is very sensitive to the drop. It does not panic, but it does take notice. And when the brain senses its fuel running thin, it has a reliable way of fixing the problem, one that happens to be the opposite of restful. When blood sugar falls too far, the body reaches for its emergency helpers, cortisol and adrenaline. These hormones tell the liver to release stored sugar quickly, lifting your levels back to safety. It is a clever rescue, and it works. But cortisol and adrenaline are also the chemicals of alertness, the very ones that flood you when you are startled. Releasing them is a bit like fixing a quiet room by turning on the lights and the radio at once. Your blood sugar recovers, yet you are now more awake than before. The rescue succeeds, and sleep is the price. This is the second thread pulling you toward the surface at 3. There is a natural version of this that happens every night without any drink at all. In the hours before dawn, cortisol slowly rises on its own, a gentle tide meant to lift you toward morning. Normally, it is smooth and easy to sleep through. But when a blood sugar dip triggers an extra release of cortisol early, that tide arrives sooner and higher than it should. Your body reads the surge as a signal that the night is ending. Long before your alarm, the machinery of waking begins to turn. What should have been a soft, distant sunrise inside you becomes a jolt, delivered hours ahead of schedule. The third mechanism is the simplest and the most physical. Deep in your brain sits a small gland that releases a hormone with a long name, vasopressin, sometimes called the water-saving hormone. Its job at night is to tell your kidneys to hold on to water, so you can sleep for hours without needing the bathroom. Alcohol quietly blocks this hormone. With the water-saving signal switched off, the kidneys stop conserving and start releasing. This is why an evening of drinking sends you to the bathroom more than usual. And it is why the night ahead holds one more small interruption, waiting patiently for the early hours. without that water-saving hormone doing its work. Your kidneys keep filling the bladder through the night. Slowly, steadily, pressure builds while you sleep. Somewhere in the small hours, it crosses a threshold, and the gentle signal to wake becomes impossible to ignore. On an ordinary night, your body would have quietly held the water and let you rest. After drinking, it cannot. So you surface, half aware, and make the familiar walk down the dark hallway. The trouble is not only the interruption itself. It is that this trip tends to land in the same fragile window as the others, when your sleep was already thin and easy to break. All that lost water leaves a mark. As the night goes on, mild dehydration sets in, which is part of why a dry mouth and a dull headache can greet you before dawn. Dehydration also nudges the body toward lighter, more restless sleep, as if it senses something is out of balance and refuses to settle fully. So the same hormone change that filled your bladder is quietly roughening the texture of your rest. None of this is loud on its own. It is simply one more small pull toward wakefulness, layered on the others, each one gentle, all of them arriving around the same quiet hour of the night. Now notice how these three threads line up in time. The falling alcohol level thins your sleep and lets the brain rebound. The dip in blood sugar calls up cortisol and adrenaline. The blocked water hormone fills the bladder. Each one, on its own schedule, tends to peak in the same narrow window, roughly 2 to 4 in the morning. That is why the waking so often feels oddly precise, as if an unseen clock had been set for 3. It is not one alarm, but 3, quietly ringing together. Alone, any of them might let you drift back down, arriving as a small chorus. They are usually enough to open your eyes. This gives the nightcap its strange double life. Poured at bedtime, it is one of the fastest ways to feel drowsy. A soft push towards sleep when the day has left you wired. But by the way it is made, and the way your body handles it, that same glass quietly sets an alarm for a few hours later. You are, in effect, drinking both a sleeping aid and a wake-up call in a single pour. The first gift is real. You do fall asleep quickly. The second is hidden, delivered in the dark long after you've forgotten the glass. One choice, 2 very different messages to the night. How strongly all this lands varies quite a lot from person to person. Body size, the amount you drank, how much you'd eaten, your age, and how your particular body handles alcohol all shift the picture. On average, women tend to process alcohol a little more slowly than men, so the same glass can linger longer. Some people wake at 3 like clockwork after a single drink, while others notice only a faint restlessness. There is no single rule that fits everyone here, but the underlying pattern is remarkably steady, even when its strength changes. The direction is the same for nearly all of us, only the volume of it differs. You might expect that regular drinkers escape all this. In one way, they do. The body learns to fall asleep past the sedation, so the drowsy push fades with habit. But the deeper disruption is stubborn. Studies that follow long-term drinkers still find flattened early REM and lighter second-half sleep, even when the person feels they slept straight through. Tolerance dulls the feeling of being affected without repairing the sleep itself. It is a little like getting used to a noisy street. You stop noticing the sound, yet your rest is quietly thinner than it would be in silence. The night is still disturbed. You've only stopped hearing it. Timing turns out to matter as much as amount. A glass of wine with an early dinner gives your body hours to clear it before you lie down. So much of the rebound has passed by the time you sleep. The same glass sipped right before bed does the opposite. Now the alcohol is still high as you drift off and falls away precisely during your most fragile hours. The closer the last sip sits to your pillow, the more the disruption lands in the very heart of the night. It is not only whether you drank, but when, that decides how much of the second half is quietly borrowed. This is why a full night in bed can still leave you strangely hollow the next day. The clock may say you slept for 8 hours, but the second half of that sleep was shallow and broken, missing much of its deepest repair. You wake feeling as if you barely rested, puzzled, because by the numbers you did everything right. The hours were there. The quality was not. Your body counts sleep by depth and completeness, not by the time showing on the alarm. And when the back half of the night is thinned out, the morning arrives, owing you something the front half alone could never fully pay back. So the paradox settles into focus. The nightcap does not steal your ability to fall asleep. If anything, it hands that to you almost too easily. What it quietly takes is the far side of the night, the deep and dreaming hours that leave you truly restored. It moves the ease to the front and the cost to the back, then presents the trade as a gift. For years, a person can believe the drink is helping them sleep, never seeing that it has simply rearranged the night. The first hours feel better. The last hours pay for it, in a currency you only notice at dawn. Look back over the path we've walked, and one quiet truth stands out. It was never that you couldn't fall asleep. The wine did its part. You drifted off with ease. What slipped away, unnoticed, was the second half of the night, carried off by a falling blood alcohol level, a dip in sugar, and a blocked signal about water. The thing that felt like it helped you wind down was the same thing waking you at 3. And here is the part that unsettles gently. The nightcap is not the only such visitor. Other everyday comforts, held in a warm cup or waiting on the plate, play their own quiet version of this trick. We'll meet them next. The quiet culprits behind your night are beginning to show themselves, and more wait just ahead. A soft subscribe helps another restless sleeper find this calm unraveling too. Now, let's breathe here together, one sleepy soul at a time. Right now, somewhere beneath your awareness, your body is doing the same slow work we've been describing, clearing, balancing, keeping the quiet chemistry of the night in motion. You don't have to manage any of it. Notice the weight of your body against the bed, and how each breath seems to leave a little more slowly than the one before. The night has a second half waiting for you, deeper than the first. What we've traced so far lived inside a single glass. What comes next has been sitting in plainer sight, in the warmth of an afternoon cup, in the small comforts we reach for without a second thought. Let that curiosity rest lightly for now. There's nothing here to solve. Let the next breath carry you gently onward. Caffeine is the most widely used wake-up substance on Earth. Billions of people reach for it every single day, most often in coffee, tea, or a cold can of soda. It is a mild stimulant, which simply means it nudges your brain toward feeling more alert. Plants make it as a natural pest defense, yet we have turned it into a comforting morning ritual. Here is the gentle catch worth noticing tonight. Caffeine does not only work while you feel awake. Long after the taste is gone, a quiet share of it is still moving through you, doing its slow work far in the background. Scientists measure caffeine by something called its half-life. That is the time your body needs to clear away half of what you took in. For many people, this sits around 5 or 6 hours, though it truly varies from person to person. Picture a candle burning down. After the first stretch, half the wax still remains, glowing softly. Caffeine fades in much the same quiet way. If you had a cup with about 100 milligrams at noon, roughly half is often still with you by early evening. It leaves slowly, not all at once, lingering far longer than the alert feeling ever does. Think about a coffee enjoyed at 3 in the afternoon. It feels like a harmless midday lift, long before bed. Yet if half of it is still around some 6 hours later, a real portion is circulating when you finally lie down at 9 or 10. By the time your head meets the pillow, that afternoon cup has quietly followed you into the night. This is where the picture begins to turn. The trouble may never have been that you could not fall asleep. It may be that something you welcomed hours earlier was still awake inside you, long after you had stopped thinking about it. To understand caffeine, meet a molecule called adenosine. All day long, while you are busy and moving, adenosine slowly builds up inside your brain. It is your body's gentle sleepiness signal, a soft voice that grows louder as the hours pass, quietly telling you rest is near. Adenosine settles into tiny docking spots on your brain cells, like a key sliding into a lock. Caffeine happens to be shaped just enough like adenosine to slip into those same spots first. It takes the parking space, so your sleepiness signal has nowhere left to land. That is the quiet trick behind feeling so wide awake. Here is the part that often goes unnoticed. When caffeine blocks those docking spots, your sleepiness signal does not simply vanish. Adenosine keeps building up behind the scenes, waiting patiently with nowhere to go. Your tiredness is not gone. It is only hidden from you for a while. Then, as the caffeine slowly clears, all that stored up adenosine finally floods into its spots at once. For many people, this arrives later as a heavy wave of tiredness. The signal you muffled earlier does not forget the delay. It simply waits, then returns, quietly asking to be felt. Many people fall asleep just fine after coffee and assume all is well. This is where caffeine hides its gentlest sabotage. Even when you drift off, caffeine still in your system can thin the deepest, most restoring stage of sleep. You reach the shallows, but not the deep water where your body does its heaviest repair. In careful studies, caffeine taken hours before bed lowered sleep quality even for people who felt they had slept normally. So the question softens and changes shape. Perhaps the trouble was never falling asleep at all, but how deeply you were allowed to stay there. Not everyone meets caffeine in the same way, and this matters more than most of us realize. Your liver clears caffeine using a particular enzyme, and the instructions for it come from your genes. Some people are fast processors, sweeping caffeine away in only a couple of hours. Others are slow processors, holding onto it for 8, 10, or even more. This is why one friend sleeps soundly after an evening espresso, while another lies awake from a single afternoon cup. Neither of them is doing anything wrong. Their bodies are simply reading caffeine at different speeds, on a scale that varies from person to person. Your personal caffeine clock can also shift over time. As the years pass, many bodies clear caffeine a little more slowly than they once did. So the same evening cup lingers longer than it did in your 20s. Certain conditions slow it further still. Pregnancy, some medications, and even a portion of grapefruit can stretch caffeine's stay in the body. This is one reason a habit that never bothered you before can quietly start disturbing your nights. Nothing about you has failed. The drink stayed the same, but the way your body reads it has gently changed underneath you. The word decaf sounds like a safe promise, and mostly it is a kind one. Still, it is worth knowing that decaffeinated does not quite mean caffeine-free. The process removes most of the caffeine, yet a small amount usually stays behind in every cup. One decaf coffee holds only a little, far less than the regular kind. But if you enjoy 2 or 3 cups through a long evening, those small amounts can quietly add up. For a slow processor near bedtime, even that gentle trace can be enough to matter. Decaf is softer, yes, though not entirely silent in the night. That square of dark chocolate after dinner is a lovely ritual, and it carries a small secret. Cocoa naturally contains caffeine, along with a close cousin called theobromine that also mildly stimulates the body. The darker and richer the chocolate, the more of both it tends to hold. A small piece is gentle, nothing to worry over. Yet a generous serving of very dark chocolate late at night can deliver a modest dose you never counted as caffeine at all. It felt like a simple treat, not a cup of coffee. Your body, quietly, may register a little of both. Tea feels like the calm, sleepy sibling of coffee, and in many ways, it truly is. Both green and black tea, though, are brewed from a plant that naturally makes caffeine. A cup of tea usually holds less than a cup of coffee, which is part of its gentle reputation. Tea also carries a soothing compound that softens caffeine's edge, so the lift feels smoother and calmer. Still, softer is not the same as absent. A few cups of black tea across a long evening can carry more caffeine than you would guess, quietly keeping a little watch over your night. Cold, fizzy drinks rarely feel like a source of caffeine, yet many quietly are. Colas and a number of energy drinks have caffeine added right in, even when they taste sweet and refreshing. A large soda with an evening meal can carry as much caffeine as a small cup of coffee. Because it feels like a simple drink, we almost never count it before bed. And so the picture grows clearer and a little unexpected. The caffeine thinning the depth from your night is not always waiting in a warm mug. Sometimes it arrives cold and completely disguised. Some caffeine hides not in what you drink, but in what you take. A number of common headache and pain relief tablets include caffeine on purpose, because it can help those medicines work a little better. Pre-workout powders and certain energy supplements often carry a stronger dose as well. If you reach for a late evening painkiller, you might swallow a small helping of caffeine without ever tasting it. It is easy to blame a restless night on stress alone. Sometimes the quiet culprit was simply sitting in the medicine cabinet, keeping your brain company long after the lights went out. Perhaps the most gentle deception is the belief that caffeine no longer affects you. Many people say they can drink coffee at night and still sleep like a stone. And it is true that you can build a tolerance to the feeling, so the buzz fades with regular use. But your deep sleep does not build that same tolerance. You may fall asleep easily, yet the caffeine can still quietly thin the most restoring hours beneath the surface. Sleeping through the night was never full proof that the night was truly restful, or that nothing at all was working against you. Picture the afternoon cup as a small, silent timer. You set it running at lunch without a thought, and it keeps ticking softly all the way into the dark. You do not hear it, and you may not even feel it. Yet, in the deep hours, when your body reaches for its most healing sleep, that quiet timer can still be gently pulling you back toward the surface. The morning lift and the midnight thinness are simply two ends of the very same cup. What woke you kindly at noon may be the same thing lightening your rest at 3. Something in you has settled deeper now, your breath a little slower than when we began. There is nothing here to solve tonight. No cup left to measure. No hour to count. Let one slow breath move all the way through you, and notice how easily it comes. We are drifting through these quiet facts together, in no hurry at all, with somewhere soft still waiting ahead. Let's keep going, gently. A small bowl of ice cream before bed feels like a fair reward for a long day. Sugar reaches your blood fast, faster than almost anything else you can eat. Within minutes, your blood sugar climbs like an elevator heading up. Your body reads that climb and sends out insulin to bring it back down. For a little while, you feel warm and pleasantly drowsy, and sleep comes easily. That soft, sinking feeling is real, and it is welcome. But it is only the first half of the story. The same treat that helped you drift off has already set a quiet swing in motion. One your body will have to answer later, in the dark. Not all carbs behave the same way once they reach your stomach. White bread, cookies, and sugary cereal are called high glycemic foods. That is just a longer way of saying they break down into sugar very quickly. Think of them as kindling instead of a slow log on a fire. They burn bright and fast, then fade. A bowl of sweet cereal at night can lift your blood sugar almost as sharply as a handful of candy. Whole foods with fiber burn slower and steadier. As a simple rule, the faster a food raises your blood sugar, the harder your body has to work to bring it back down again. Here is where the swing turns around. When blood sugar shoots up quickly, your body can overcorrect. It releases a little more insulin than it truly needs, the way you might turn a steering wheel too far to fix a small drift. That extra insulin keeps pulling sugar out of your blood even after the food is long gone. A few hours later, your blood sugar can dip below where it began. Scientists call this a sugar crash. By then, you are asleep and have no idea it is happening. Yet deep inside, your body has quietly slipped into a low that it now feels it has to fix. Your brain treats low blood sugar as a small emergency, and for good reason. Sugar is the main fuel your brain runs on, and it does not like running low. So it calls for help. It releases cortisol and adrenaline, the same two chemicals that rise when something startles you. Their job is to unlock stored sugar and lift your levels back to safe. It is a clever rescue, and it works every time. The only trouble is the timing. These are alert chemicals, wake-up chemicals, and they are doing their honest work at 2 or 3 in the morning, right in the middle of your deepest rest. This is often the quiet reason behind the mysterious middle-of-the-night wake-up. You are not worried about work. Nothing outside the room has disturbed you. Yet your eyes open. Your heart feels a touch quick. And your mind switches on for no clear reason at all. What woke you was not a bad dream. It was a small surge of adrenaline, sent to raise your sugar back up. The dessert you enjoyed at 9 has slowly become an alarm clock at 3. Your body did nothing wrong. It rescued you exactly as it was built to. It simply had to ring the bell while you were still trying to sleep. Many people reach for something sweet at night precisely because it feels calming. A cookie, a spoon of honey, a warm mug of sweet cocoa. They seem to whisper that the day is finally done. And in that first hour, they keep their promise. Warmth spreads. The shoulders loosen. Sleep feels closer than before. This is the quiet betrayal hidden in the bedtime snack. The very thing chosen to soothe you towards sleep is the thing that plants the later crash. The comfort is genuine, never imagined. It is simply short. It hands you an easy beginning and, hours on, gently takes back the second half of your night. Liquid sugar may be the sneakiest form of all. A can of soda or a glass of juice pours sugar straight into your blood with nothing to slow it down. There is no chewing, no fiber, almost no delay along the way. One regular soda can hold around 10 spoons of sugar, far more than anyone would ever eat by the spoonful. Sipped in the evening while watching a show, it barely registers as eating at all. But your blood sugar notices every drop. A late drink that feels completely harmless can trigger the same rise and fall as a full dessert, arriving right on schedule in the dark. Once you see the pattern, a strange little truth appears. The smooth, sleepy feeling and the sudden late-night jolt are not two separate events. They are the two ends of a single swing. The higher the rise, the deeper the fall that tends to follow. So the question we started with quietly turns over. We asked why a food that helps you fall asleep would wake you hours later. Now it looks as if falling asleep and waking were never opposites at all. They were the front and the back of one slow wave, set moving by a single sweet bite while the evening still felt young. For someone who enjoys sweets most evenings, this swing can become a nightly guest. The body starts to expect the surge and the crash, and sleep grows lighter around the same hour each night. You might not fully wake. You may only surface for a moment, turn over, and sink again, never learning why your rest feels a little broken. Over weeks, those small stirrings quietly add up, like a phone buzzing softly all night in the next room. The sleep still happens, but it comes out thinner. And morning tiredness arrives without an obvious cause, because the thief worked so gently, one small swing at a time. So the second half of your night keeps a quiet accountant. Every sweet choice made in the evening is written into a ledger your body settles hours later. While you sleep, you wake at 3, puzzled and wide awake, and you blame the wrong things. Stress, age, the room, yourself. But the real cause was set gently in motion much earlier, at the kitchen counter. This is the turning point of tonight. The trouble was never really falling asleep. The trouble was what the sweetness quietly borrowed from the hours that followed. Hours you never got the chance to guard, because by then you were already gone. What just settled into place? That the second half of your night can be borrowed hours before you ever close your eyes, is not only a fact about sugar. You may be carrying a version of it right now. A tiredness that shows up without a reason you can name. A waking, somewhere in the small hours, that you long ago stopped trying to explain. That is not a flaw in you. It is a swing your body has been riding, quietly, night after night. Notice your breath. Notice how it keeps moving, slow and even, whether or not the question is solved. The rest of tonight follows this same thread, not toward blame, but toward the small, kind choices that let the second half of the night stay whole. There's a quiet competition that begins the moment you finish a late dinner. Your body has 2 big jobs it would love to do fully: digest the meal and power down for sleep. But it does neither one well while trying to do both. Digestion asks for blood flow, muscle work, and steady energy in the gut. Sleep asks the whole system to slow and cool. It's a little like running the dishwasher in a house you're trying to make quiet for the night. The machine keeps humming in the background, and true stillness never quite arrives. By the time your head reaches the pillow, a large meal eaten an hour earlier is still very much in progress. The stomach doesn't empty all at once. It releases food into the intestines slowly. And a full, heavy dinner can take 3 to 4 hours to clear. So a 9 o'clock meal may still be churning near midnight, right when your brain is trying to sink into its deepest stage. Think of it as leaving for a trip with half your bags still unpacked. Part of you is resting while another part keeps working. Every meal you eat gives off a little heat as your body breaks it down. Scientists call this the thermic effect of food, and it's completely normal. But the timing can work against you. Digesting a big dinner gently raises your inner temperature at the exact hour your body is trying to cool itself for sleep. Picture turning on the oven in a small kitchen right after you've opened the windows to let the cool evening air in. The warmth from one quietly undoes the effort of the other, and the room never settles the way you hoped. Falling asleep isn't only about feeling tired, it's also about temperature. To drift off, your core has to cool by roughly 1 to 2 degrees. A signal that tells the brain the day is truly over. This gentle drop is part of why a cool room helps you sleep. A heavy, warm meal sitting in your belly slows that cooling, holding your inner thermostat a notch too high. It's like trying to lower the temperature in a room while a small heater keeps running in the corner. The dial simply won't reach the number your body has been waiting for. Not all foods leave the stomach at the same speed, and fat is the slow one. Greasy, rich meals, fried food, buttery sauces, melted cheese take noticeably longer to break down and move along. Fat actually signals the stomach to slow its pace, so a fatty dinner lingers far past a lighter one. Compare a bowl of thin broth to a plate drenched in cream sauce. The broth is gone within an hour, while the cream sits heavy for hours more. Eaten late, that slow, heavy meal is still hard at work long after you've closed your eyes. When researchers study what people eat and how they sleep, a pattern shows up around fatty evening meals. Diets high in heavy fats near bedtime tend to bring lighter, more broken sleep, with less of the slow, deep waves that leave you feeling truly rested. You may still fall asleep just fine, but the quality quietly thins out in the hours that follow. It's the difference between a night of solid, unbroken rest and one stitched together from shallow pieces. The meal doesn't keep you awake at all. It just keeps you from sinking all the way down. Protein is wonderful for your body, yet a big, protein-heavy meal late at night asks a great deal of your digestion. Steak, ribs, a thick burger. These break down slowly, keeping the stomach busy and active for a long stretch. That steady work means your gut stays switched on just when the rest of you is trying to switch off. Imagine asking a crew to keep working the night shift in a building where everyone else has gone home. The lights in one corner stay on, humming with effort, while stillness quietly settles over everything else. Something shifts the moment you lie down after eating, and it comes down to gravity. When you are upright, gravity gently keeps the contents of your stomach where they belong. Stretch out flat, and that helpful pull disappears. Now stomach acid and partly digested food can drift back up toward the throat far more easily. Picture a glass filled nearly to the brim. Held upright, it's fine, but tilt it toward level and the liquid slides straight to the edge. Your stomach behaves in much the same way once your body goes horizontal for the night. There's a small ring of muscle where your esophagus meets your stomach, and its job is to stay closed like a one-way door, keeping acid down below. During sleep, this muscle naturally relaxes along with the rest of you. That softening is normal, but it means the door doesn't seal quite as tightly through the night. If your stomach is full and working hard, acid has both the pressure and the loosened gait it needs to slip upward. The very relaxation that helps you rest can, after a heavy late meal, quietly let discomfort in the back way. Some foods are simply more acidic than others, and they can tip an already relaxed system toward trouble. Tomato sauce, citrus, and vinegar-based dressings add their own sharpness to whatever is already in the stomach. Late at night, lying down, that extra acid is more likely to creep upward and spark small, barely noticed awakenings. You might not fully wake or remember it by morning. Just surface for a moment, then sink again. Across a whole night, those tiny interruptions add up like a series of soft knocks on a door you're trying to sleep behind. Spicy food does something unexpected to your body's inner thermostat. The compound that makes chili peppers hot, called capsaicin, gently raises your core temperature and nudges your metabolism to run a touch warmer. On a summer afternoon that barely matters, but at bedtime it works directly against you. Remember that your body is trying to cool down in order to fall asleep, and a spicy dinner turns the heat up instead. It's like lighting a small fire in the room just as you were letting the evening chill settle in. The warmth lingers at exactly the wrong moment. Beyond the heat you feel on your tongue, spicy food can bring a second, quieter problem once you lie down. Capsaicin can irritate the stomach and loosen that ring of muscle guarding against acid, making heartburn more likely in the flat, still hours of night. A meal that felt bold and satisfying at dinner can turn into a slow burn behind the breastbone at 2 a.m. It's a delayed echo of the pleasure. The flavor arrives first, and hours later, when you're finally horizontal, the discomfort quietly follows it back up. When scientists have people eat spicy meals close to bedtime, the sleep that follows tells a consistent story. On spicy nights, people tend to take longer to drift off and spend more time awake in the small hours, even when they don't remember struggling. The body runs warmer, the stomach stays busier, and the whole system feels a little more stirred up than it should. It's a gentle reminder that a meal's effects don't end when the plate is cleared. What tasted like a satisfying finish to the day can quietly reshape the hours that come after it. There's a substance in certain foods with a name worth knowing: turamine. It forms naturally as foods age or ferment. And once inside you, it nudges the body to release norepinephrine, one of the messengers that helps keep you alert and awake. In daylight, that's harmless, even useful. But a plate rich in tyramine late in the evening delivers a small dose of stay-awake chemistry at the worst possible hour. Imagine flipping a light switch back on in a room you were just about to leave dark. The signal is subtle, yet it points your body toward waking, not rest. Tyramine isn't spread evenly across your food. It gathers in the things that grow richer with age. Aged cheddar, blue cheese, salami, soy sauce, and sauerkraut hold far more of it than fresh foods do. As a rough rule, the older and more deeply flavorful something tastes, the more tyramine it tends to carry. That late-night cheese board or bowl of aged, savory bites feels like the perfect way to unwind. Yet it may be quietly handing your body one of the very signals that keeps the second half of your night restless, long after the last piece is gone. We started the night wondering why the food that helps you settle can quietly wake you a few hours later. Now the shape of it shifts. The very treats reached for to unwind, the aged, the rich, the fermented, seem to carry a faint alertness folded inside them. What soothes the first hour may be the same thing stirring the fourth. Cured and smoked meats deserve their own mention, because they stack several sleep disruptors into a single bite. Bacon, salami, and pepperoni carry tyramine from their curing. Plenty of salt, and a good deal of fat all at once. So a late sandwich or charcuterie snack isn't just one challenge for your night. It's three quietly working together. The tyramine nudges you toward alertness. The fat slows digestion, and the salt sets its own trouble in motion. It's a bit like inviting three restless guests to stay over on the very night you most wanted a quiet house. Salt has a subtle way of reaching into your night. A very salty dinner pulls water into your bloodstream and tissues, leaving your body holding on to more fluid than usual. It also stirs up thirst, so you're more likely to wake with a dry mouth, reaching for a glass of water. Think of the salty popcorn at a movie and how quickly you crave a drink afterward. Now imagine that same pull arriving in the middle of the night, gently tugging you up out of sleep to answer a thirst you never even noticed forming at dinner. That midnight glass of water, harmless as it seems, marks a break in your sleep that's hard to smooth over. Once a salty meal has woken your thirst and you've gotten up to drink, the fluid you take in has to go somewhere later, often nudging you awake a second time. One salty dinner can quietly set up a small chain of interruptions across the night. It's like a single loose thread that, once tugged, keeps unraveling a little more. The meal is long finished, yet its ripple keeps reaching into hour after hour of your rest. Even plain water, in the wrong amount at the wrong time, can work against a full night. Drinking a large volume of anything right before bed fills the bladder while you sleep, and a full bladder eventually sends its own signal to wake. The liquid doesn't have to be coffee or wine to interrupt you. timing alone is enough. Picture filling a bucket right to the brim just before setting it down for the night. Sooner or later, it has to be emptied. Your body works the same way, quietly counting every ounce you sent it late in the evening. Waking to use the bathroom has a name, nocturia, and its real cost is in how it fractures your sleep. Each trip pulls you up out of the deeper stages, and once you're back in bed, your body has to climb all the way down again. That descent takes time, and it doesn't always finish before morning arrives. One or two of these breaks can quietly hollow out the restful core of your night. It's like being nudged awake each time you near the bottom of a staircase, then asked to start the long climb back down once more. A full stomach affects your night in a purely physical way, too, quite apart from acid or chemistry. When your belly is packed, it presses gently upward against the diaphragm, the broad muscle just beneath your lungs that drives each breath. That pressure can make breathing feel a little shallower and your body a little less comfortable. So you shift and turn more, hunting for an easier position. Imagine trying to take a deep, slow breath while wearing a belt cinched one notch too tight. The body keeps adjusting, and that low restlessness nibbles at the calm sleep needs. Rich, creamy desserts can be a quiet double blow at the end of the day. A slice of cheesecake or a bowl of ice cream brings a heavy load of fat, which slows digestion, and often a touch of acidity that can stir reflux once you lie down. So the sweet finish that felt like a reward keeps your stomach working and your throat vulnerable well past bedtime. It's like signing up for extra chores right when you were finally ready to rest. The pleasure fades within minutes, but the digestive labor it started can stretch across hours of the night. The clock matters as much as the plate, because your body treats an early meal and a late one very differently. A dinner finished several hours before bed has largely moved on by the time you lie down. Its heat and heavy work mostly behind you. The very same meal eaten right before sleep is still churning, still warming, still pressing upward. Nothing about the food itself has changed, only its place in the evening. It's the difference between arriving somewhere rested and still catching your breath at the door. Your stomach and your sleep both feel that gap keenly. Step back, and the saboteurs on your plate share a strange habit. They save most of their trouble for the second half of the night. The heat of digestion, the creeping acid, the tyramine's faint alertness, the slowly filling bladder. Few of them stop you from falling asleep at all. They wait. Their effects gather in the small hours, right when you should be settling into your deepest, most restful stretch. It's less like a locked door at bedtime and more like a slow leak that only shows itself once the night is already well underway. And here is what the evening has been quietly showing, piece by piece. The trouble was never really that you couldn't fall asleep. Most of these foods let you drift off easily enough. The trouble is what they take afterward, the deep, unbroken second half of the night, carried off a degree of warmth, a rise of acid, a wakeful signal at a time. The wrong meal doesn't guard the door to sleep. It slips in later and quietly steals the best hours while you're already under. What felt like winding down was, all along, setting the stage for waking. Something is easing now, without any effort from you. If the meal is behind you, the stomach is quietly finishing its work, the small heat of digestion fading, the body free at last to cool toward rest. You don't have to manage any of it. The settling simply happens on its own, the way a room grows still after the last guest has gone. What we've been circling is close now. The second half of your night was never out of reach. Let your shoulders soften, and let the coming hours belong to you. By now, the real story of the night has quietly turned. Falling asleep was never the hard part for you. The wrong evening choices were slipping in later. In the second half of the night, long after the lights went out. That gap at 3 a.m. was not a flaw in you. It was the slow echo of something eaten or poured hours before, finally reaching the quietest part of your rest. Think back to the dinner table, hours before bed. That is where so much of the night is decided. Not in the bedroom. Not in the dark. The heavy plate. The late cup. The evening glass of wine. Each one made a quiet promise to your body about the hours ahead. You did everything right once the lights were off. The choices that mattered had already been made, earlier, without you noticing. Caffeine is patient in the body. For many people, it lingers for 5 or 6 hours, sometimes far longer. So an afternoon coffee can still be awake inside you near midnight. The gentlest change is not giving it up, but moving it earlier, letting the last cup land before early afternoon. Do that, and by the time you lie down, most of it has quietly faded, and the deep hours of the night are left alone. Coffee is not the only place caffeine waits. It hides in dark chocolate, in green and black tea, in some sodas, in a square of dessert, even in a few pain relievers. None of these have to leave your life. They only ask to move earlier in the day. When the afternoon becomes their quiet cut-off line, the evening is handed back to you, softer and slower, with nothing left to keep the later hours restless. The evening glass of wine feels like the surest way down into sleep. And at first, it is. It pulls you under quickly. But as your body clears it in the small hours, that same drink turns into a quiet alarm, lifting you toward waking just as the night should be deepest. Setting the glass down, or moving it earlier and lighter, hands those middle hours back. The falling asleep stays easy, the staying asleep returns. It doesn't take much to feel this. Even a single drink close to bedtime can shallow out the second half of the night, trading deep rest for lighter, broken sleep. There is nothing to punish yourself over. The kind change is simply distance, letting the last sip fall a few hours before the pillow, so the body finishes with it long before the deepest sleep arrives. What felt like help stops quietly working against you. A large meal keeps the body busy long after the last bite. Digestion raises your inner warmth and asks for blood flow and effort, right when everything is trying to slow down. Giving dinner room helps, finishing the heavier plate around 3 hours before bed. By the time you lie down, the hardest work is done. Your core has cooled, and the night can settle without a full stomach quietly holding it awake. When the day runs late, dinner slides later with it, and the night pays the price. Yet the fix is gentle. Nothing has to leave the plate. The plate only has to arrive sooner. An earlier dinner lets the body finish its work while you are still awake, so sleep is not sharing the bed with a meal. Even shifting the evening by an hour can smooth the hours that used to fray. Spicy and acidic foods carry their own late echo. They can warm the body from the inside. Once you lie flat, let the stomach's acid drift back where it doesn't belong, stirring you awake without a clear reason. The answer is not to give them up, only to give them time. Enjoyed earlier in the evening. They settle long before you rest, and the night stays cool, level, and undisturbed beneath you. The bedtime snack can feel like a small kindness to yourself. But something sweet late in the evening lifts your blood sugar, then lets it fall in the middle of the night, and that dip can quietly tug you awake. There is nothing wrong with wanting comfort before bed. It simply helps to let the evening stay simple, so the hours ahead run smooth and level, without a hidden rise and fall pulling at your rest. Even water has its timing. A large drink right before bed fills slowly through the night and can wake you for the bathroom just as sleep grows deep. Staying hydrated still matters. It only asks to happen earlier. Letting most of your water come well before bedtime lets your body settle it in time. Then the middle of the night stays whole, unbroken by a small, avoidable waking you never wanted. Notice the thread running through all of this. Not one of these changes asks you to add anything, or to want less, or to hold more willpower. Each one asks only for timing, for the same choices, moved a little earlier in the day. The coffee, the wine, the heavy plate, the late glass of water, none forbidden, all simply given room. Sleep, it turns out, responds less to discipline and more to distance. Remember all the nights you did everything right. The dark room, the quiet, the screens set aside, your body in bed on time, and still that stubborn gap at 3 a.m. You were not failing at sleep. The bedroom was never the problem. The timing of the day behind you was. Knowing that lifts a weight you have carried without naming it. The sleeplessness was never a verdict on you. When the timing softens, the second half of the night comes home. That is where the deepest sleep and the richest dreaming live. The hours that leave you truly rested. Free them from the fading coffee, the clearing wine, the late and heavy meal, and they open again on their own. Morning arrives differently then. Not with a 3 M hole in the night, but with a rest that finally reached all the way through. The question that opened this night has quietly changed shape. We began by asking why the very things that helped you drift off would wake you hours later. Now it looks less like a riddle about falling asleep, and more like a question about what you handed to the second half of the night, long before you ever lay down. The answer was never in the bedroom. It was always on the table. Waking at 3 in the morning is not a character flaw. It is chemistry finishing what it started hours earlier. The last of the caffeine. The body clearing the wine. The blood sugar dipping after something sweet. None of it means you are broken. It only means the night was carrying the day's timing a little too long. Change the timing, and the waking has nothing left to run on. The body forgives more quickly than you might expect. Give it a few nights of earlier dinners and earlier last cups, and it begins to trust the pattern again. The middle of the night grows quieter. The 3A. M, waking, loosens its grip. There is no long penance here. No perfect record to keep. Just small, kind adjustments the body meets halfway. Night after night. Until the change feels like nothing at all. You do not need a perfect diet to sleep well. You only need a little distance between the plate and the pillow. The evening does not have to be spare or joyless. The coffee, the meal, the glass of wine can all still belong to it. They simply move toward the front of the day, leaving the last hours clear. That small space is often all the night was ever asking for. There is a gentleness in this that is easy to miss. Nothing here is about restriction. It is about giving the evening back to you. An evening that ends softly, unhurried, with the day's fuel already spent. When the last cup and the last plate move earlier, the hours before bed open into something calmer. The night stops being a struggle you brace for, and becomes a place you are simply allowed to rest. Tomorrow's version of you is quietly shaped at tonight's table. The steadiness you feel in the afternoon, the clearness of your morning, the mood that carries you through. Much of it is decided by when you ate and drank, not just what. This is not a burden to carry. It is a small freedom. The next good day is often built the evening before, in nothing more than the timing of an ordinary meal. Picture the mornings that follow. You wake without the strange hole in the night, without the memory of lying awake at 3, staring into the dark. The heaviness that used to trail you through the day lifts a little. There is no 3A. M gap to recover from, because there was no gap. The night held together, whole and unbroken. And now the day meets you rested from the very first hour. And on the nights you forget, be gentle with yourself. One late dinner, one glass of wine with friends, one cup of coffee that ran too long. None of these will undo you. The body is forgiving, and a single evening rarely echoes far. What matters is the quiet shape of most nights, not the perfection of every one. Grace, here, is part of the rest. Slowly, the night becomes one unbroken thing again. Not a first half that works and a second half that frays, but a single, continuous descent that carries you all the way to morning. The choices that once split it apart have moved earlier, out of the way. What remains is simple: a long, quiet stretch of rest with no seam in the middle. Nothing waiting at 3 a.m. to lift you back toward the surface. For now, there is nothing left to change tonight. Whatever the day held is already behind you. You can let go of the plate, the cup, the glass. Let go of keeping track at all. The timing of tomorrow can wait for tomorrow. Right now, in this hour, the only thing being asked of you is to soften, to grow heavy, and to let the night begin closing gently over you. You were never broken. You did everything right, and now the last quiet hours before bed can finally be on your side. The problem was never that you couldn't fall asleep. It was only that the wrong things, at the wrong time, slipped in and took the second half of your night. Tonight, gently, you take it back. The whole night is yours again. Rest now. It was always allowed to hold you. 100 facts ago, we asked why the very foods that ease you into sleep could turn on you hours later. Now the answer has a shape. We followed the evening glass of wine as it pulled you under, then cleared in the small hours and became a quiet alarm. We watched the afternoon coffee linger for 5 or 6 hours in many people, still awaken you near midnight. What began as a riddle about falling asleep became an answer about the second half of the night, and who was quietly taking it. Here is what remains. The problem was never that sleep wouldn't come. It was that the wrong things, at the wrong hour, slipped in and stole the deepest part of your night. And that part can be given back. If learning what quietly stole your night brought you a little relief tonight, a sense that you were never the one failing, a gentle like, subscribe, or share can carry that same relief to someone still lying awake at 3, wondering what they did wrong. One quiet tap, one sleepy soul at a time. Somewhere in the quiet, the day's last meal has long since settled. The body has finished its work. The warmth of digestion cooled. The last of the coffee faded. The evening cleared away like dishes carried from a table. None of it asked anything of you. Let your whole self settle the way the night has settled. The second half of it opening wide and unbroken before you. There is nothing left on the table now. Only the long, quiet dark, already holding you. You can let the last thoughts of the day drift down now, like the quiet after a table has been cleared, when everything is finally still. Let your body grow heavy, sinking into the bed. If sleep comes, let it carry you into the second half of the night, the deep, unbroken part that was always meant to be yours. These sleepy science nights have spent many hours at the ordinary table, tracing how small evening choices reach all the way into the dark. The next hour follows another quiet thread. The everyday habits that shape a night long before you ever lie down. That hour is waiting whenever you are ready. But if your eyes are closed, Stay there. Rest well, weary one. You did everything right, and the whole night is yours again. Where curiosity ends and sleep begins. Good night.